It's 19th of October 25 and we're gathered here today to hear my words of wisdom while cooking. Today we're cooking crispy French fries from Asda in the air fryer. This, okay? Alright guys. We're not using the pressure cooker today. Just, I think the best way to do this actually is put these out in a plate, so you get a plate full. But I've done it wrong here. It's too many. Who cares? Try and spread it out and all that. It says they should be oven cooked in about 18 minutes, but with an air fryer it's a lot more efficient. I mean, it is just an efficient fan oven. And I'm going to set it at 140 actually. Yeah, 10 minutes. Oh, we'll go with that and I'll check it. And the first point I want to mention is to become aware that in Ireland there is a basic income scheme for artists. So if you're an artist in Ireland, you can get about $1,500 a month. It's actually around about €325 a week. And they've been doing this since 2022, and it's only 2,000 because it's a trial, but they've decided they're going to make it permanent. And the idea is that the artists will then have, they'll have a basic income, and then they can keep on being artsy rather than being absolutely skint and giving it up. And I think this is a fantastic idea. I think the idea of universal basic income is a sort of idea. I'm interested in it. They tried it in Wales recently. I think they gave it up. It was for those that were in care homes after they came out, were around about age 18 for about a year or two. They'd done a trial of it, but I think they stopped it because it was costing too much or whatever, for whatever reason. But this Irish artist thing seems to have been beneficial, so maybe it's allowed artists, to get onto the ladder, because onto the arty ladder, because artists probably, if you get successful ones, they can probably make a lot of money. So say you've got 2,000 artists and 100 of them become highly successful, that's probably going to pay for 10,000 artists or something, because that's how the hedge funds look at it, the investment funds I should say. They look at it, we're going to fund 2,000 companies, small companies. If 10 of them become highly successful, that pays for all the rest and more, 100 times over maybe. So that's how they look at it, but whereas with most of us, we can't take risk because we're skint basically, we're bankrupt by week 2 or whatever. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. You can look it up on Grok and stuff like that. And now on to point 2, and I want to point out that the Greens now have like 126,000 members or something like. Before Zack, he just became the leader recently. When he announced he was going to go for leadership, it was around about 60,000. Now it's like 127,000. I think they're his third biggest party members, because you've got, we don't know how many Labour have got at the moment. Under Jeremy Corbyn they had 500,000 or something, but that'll be way down now under Keir Starmer. But they feel that they've just overtaken the Tories, but that's amazing. And also this week, in a Find Out Now survey, the Greens were beating Labour. The Greens were on 15.3%, Labour were on 15.2%, and Reform were on around about 32%. Find Out Now always has Reform doing very well and Labour doing very badly compared to all the other polls. But I think that Find Out Now have probably got it right. I think they use a different model from the other ones, and they're not including Don't Knows, how Don't Knows voted in the previous election. I think some of them factor that in, but you can't do that anymore because a lot of Tory voters are now voting Reform, but even Labour and SNP voters and Plaid Cymru probably are voting Reform now as well. So personally I think it could be Reform versus Greens. I know that Jeremy Corbyn's just started his Your Party thing, but I think he's missed the boat. And also Zack Polanski's a lot better than him, because he's gone on about a wealth tax, which I've gone on about in the past. That's what the patriotic millionaires want to do. They want to do a 5% charge on assets of people who have got more than £10 million in wealth. Brian Eno is a member of the Patriotic Millionaires, and he reckons they should make it 10%. But let's start off at 5%. And Patriotic Millionaires reckon you could earn they could raise income of £22 billion a year if you done that for people over 10 millions. Because as Zack Polanski pointed out, the four richest people in Britain, or richest families, have more wealth than 20 million of British people. So that's absolutely ridiculous. It's not wealth envy, it's the fact that you can have too much wealth, as Abigail Disney said this week in the USA Patriotic Millionaires meeting, whatever they do. I mean, I don't think Patriotic Millionaires does a good job of promoting itself, and that's what Zack Polanski's doing. He's promoting himself. He's doing all the old legacy corporate media things like BBC Question Time, which I don't watch or anything, and he's also doing new media. He's got his own channel on YouTube, Zack Polanski. I recommend you watch that. To me, I would say he's the best politician I can think of, but he should be the basic level. It's not that he's great, in my opinion. It's just I think all the other ones aren't very good. That's one way of looking at it. You could look at it the other way, that he is great or whatever, but yeah, I think he's great. I couldn't vote the Greens because of one issue. But apart from that, I think they're fantastic. But let's say that in general, I mean, to do with the economy, stuff like that. Like I say, it's not wealth envy. It's just stupidities. A lot of people have got too much wealth, and it just doesn't make any sense. So that's the way I'm viewing it. I'm just going to check how this is going. Yeah, it's almost ready. I mean, it is really rare ready, I would say. But I'm just going to go a bit longer. In fact, no, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I'll just add a few minutes maybe, just to... Yeah, so that's me talking about the Greens under Zack Polanski and that. So he's doing a great job. I think he's only been there a month or 6 weeks or something like that. I think he's doing better. I think your party are finished, really, Jeremy Corbyn and that. I think Zara Sultana will end up going to the Greens. Personally, I've always thought that socialists, because they're idolisers, they've had, what would you call it? Snobbery about voting the Greens. They should have been voting Greens decades ago, but they've stuck with Labour or their far left groups, Tusk or whatever, but really, I mean, all that lefty stuff is to do with trade unions and all that. Just as I think Zack Polanski said in an interview last week, he's keen to get the trade union workers, but he doesn't really want the leaders. I think he said something like that, And it was interesting. He was saying that because he first of all got into politics, he wasn't really interested, and even when he became interested with the Lib Dems first. But he says that even 8 years ago he wouldn't have been able to name the leader of the opposition. I don't think that's true actually, because that would have been Jeremy Corbyn. Maybe I misunderstood him in some way, but he first got involved with the Lib Dem party. But then one day he was debating, his first debate ever was with Keir Starmer and Natalie Bennett of the Greens in Islington, I guess. That was when Keir Starmer became an MP, I think. He said Keir Starmer was useless, which I would agree with. But he said when he was listening to Natalie Bennett, he was thinking, I agree with her, really, So he left the Lib Dems and went to the Greens. And I totally understand that as well, So, yeah, I think he's the greatest politician in Britain I can think of. Just because he's saying common sense things like I've thought of, like the wealth tax, like, what's the other things? Yeah, proportional representation, that's a big thing, I think. Personally, I prefer it, the Swiss model, where it's direct democracy, where it's referendums all the time, If there's a big issue, let's have a referendum, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's me talking about that. I'm just going to make a coffee, so, just pour it in a cup, and but you've got to make sure it goes over the minimum This is my new Scandi, as the Scandi kettle. I like most of it, except when you pour it, it feels as if it might fall off, you know, because I need to pour the angle really a lot. Here it is here, yeah, £15.82 in October 25. It's very nice though, you know. Apart from pouring it, having to do the angle a lot. That's the only thing I don't like about it really. Plus it's too big, you know. I prefer if it was for, well, say 1 litre or something, for 2 or 3 cups. But yeah, you know, yeah, we're getting a bit close there. I want to see them a bit brown, chips. This is a fast boil, 3 kilowatts. Some ASMR for you. Alright guys, and relax. This is Asda's decaffeinated gold roast coffee. I think I prefer decaf. I don't see the point of taking caffeinated if you can take decaf. Maybe long term there'll turn out to be some sort of reason that you should, you know, biochemically, I don't know, but for now I'm just missing it, decaf. And I'm going for gold roast because that's the lightest type. I don't really understand that, you know, but the lightest roast, ultra light. I use skimmed milk, you know, so yeah, so I'm really impressed with the Greens at the moment, you know. I think it could be them versus Reform. They could be the two big parties, I think, you know. Jeremy Corbyn thinks he's going to step in, but I can see Zara Sultana going to the Greens and just falling to pieces maybe, you know, because Zack is so good, and the Greens in general anyway are the best party in a way. But I couldn't vote them on one issue, so I won't be voting them. And like I say, I don't believe in party hampers. I think we should be voting on referendums all the time, you know. Like, well, David Cameron done the gamble 3 times. He won one easily, proportional representation, which I voted for. He only just won the Scottish independence one, and then he lost the Brexit one. But say something like digital ID, let's have a referendum, you know. Why should it be down to one person to decide this is the way the country's going to go? You know, let's have a referendum on it. I'm going to leave it at that. I use plastic cutlery in that because it's very light and doesn't make any noise. You've just got to buy the right type, you know, so that it doesn't fall apart in the dishwasher or heated by the heat. But why hasn't all grannies got a dishwasher? If I was Prime Minister, that would be one of my first things, because it would be me choosing the party hamper, and I'd be saying dishwashers for all old age pensioners, because not having a dishwasher is like not having a washing machine, you know. Nobody should be washing dishes in this age. Alright guys, in general that's about the whole show. Yeah, so what else? I don't know, there's a by-election in Wales coming up this week in the Welsh Senedd, and it looks like Reform are going to win it from Labour, and Labour have always held the seat carefully for 100 years, but I think it's all coming to an end. At the moment it looks like it's a 3-way thing, or no, maybe it's between Plaid Cymru and Reform actually, so that's something to look out for. I think it's on Thursday. Yeah, those chips are alright. And that's really all my points today. Oh yeah, I wanted to say about that. Yeah. Walk-in GPs. Apparently SNP announced in our conference last week that they're going to have walk-in GP centres, you know, where you can just walk in. And my thought is, why haven't they done this decades ago, you know? Because the local GP surgeries get too much control. They like to have their long lunch hours and stuff, and they like to do their private work in the late afternoon and evening, you know. Why don't we have walk-in GP centres? It's a no-brainer. Why don't we have walk-in test centres where you can pay for any test you like? A vitamin test, a mineral test, anything. A full body scan, you know, as long as you're paying. Um, you know, that sort of thing. And NHS can get referred as well. You know, that sort of thing, diagnostic or thing. So that's what the SNP are saying. So, and what a relief, you know. So we're finally, because doctor surgeries, it's just get out of control now where you have to give your, say why you want to see a doctor to the receptionist, or you have to do it online and then you might not even get to see a doctor. You know, they might refer you to a nurse or whatever, you know. So really, this walk-in GP is long overdue. I think the system we've got just now is falling to pieces because it's archaic. It's a sort of top-down. It's just archaic, and because of social media and that, everyone's fed up with it. I mean, if I could pay for private just now, I would. You know, I mean, if a doctor was £20, I would just go and see them. Even, you know, but they're not £20. They're about sort of £80 or £100. So I can't afford that. If I could, I would just, you know, because then the attitude's all the right way around. You know, it's the customer who's right. It's not the other way where you feel you're wasting their time or whatever, you know. So yeah, okay, that's another thing. And the other thing, I always end it with telling you should use the tortoise relaxation method, where you go slow motion, say 1.2, no 0.2 video speed. You know, here I'm doing it here. I'll pick up a chip. Just slow yourself down now. And do a bit of stretching as well. I don't think people stretch enough, you know. So I'm going here at tortoise speed. Yeah, that's it, yeah. That's all about the Swiss electrical system. Yeah. I would say Switzerland's the only democracy in the world, really. True democracy. Okay, that's it, guys. Farewell, everybody. Farewell.